Hello, Army. Everything felt normal until suddenly it wasn't. Out of nowhere, Jungkook posted a tongue and a warning. No explanation. Just a single moment that instantly sent shockwaves through millions of fans worldwide. Within seconds, timelines froze, hearts started racing, and one question echoed louder than ever. Why now? This wasn't just another casual post. Fans noticed it immediately. The timing felt off. The energy felt different. And the details, they didn't sit right. Some said it was emotional. Others called it suspicious. But one thing was clear. This moment meant something because Jungkook isn't someone who does things randomly. Every move, every post, every silence always carries weight. And this time it hit harder than expected. Fans began analyzing everything, the caption or lack of one, the expression, the context. Even the smallest detail became a clue. Was it a message, a memory, or something deeper that no one was supposed to notice? And as theories started spreading like wildfire, one chilling thought began to take over. What if this changes everything we thought we knew? Stay with us because this isn't just a post. This might be the beginning of something no one was ready for. The moment didn't fade. It escalated. What started as a single post quickly spiraled into something far bigger than anyone expected. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Every platform lit up. Fans weren't just reacting anymore. They were dissecting, questioning, and most dangerously connecting dots that no one had dared to connect before. Because the more people looked at it, the more unsettling it became. There was something in the image, something subtle, almost invisible at first glance, but impossible to ignore once you saw it. The expression didn't match the timing. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost like it carried a memory that wasn't meant to resurface. And the silence surrounding it, that silence was deafening. No follow-up, no clarification, nothing. And that's when the tension truly began to build. Some believed it was intentional, a quiet signal, a message hidden in plain sight. Others insisted it was just coincidence, something harmless that people were blowing out of proportion. But deep down, even the most rational voices couldn't shake the same feeling. This didn't feel normal. Because if it was just a random post, why did it hit so differently? Why did it feel like something unfinished was suddenly being dragged back into the light? As hours passed, the reactions grew more intense. At its surface, slowing down every second of the moment, zooming into every detail. Fans compared past interactions, past silences, past distances, and slowly, a narrative began to form. Not confirmed, not proven, but powerful enough to divide an entire community. Some called it emotional, others called it dangerous. Because the possibility that this post wasn't accidental, that it carried intention, opened a door that many weren't ready to walk through. A door filled with unanswered questions, complicated history, and a tension that had never truly disappeared, just buried. And now suddenly it was back, stronger, louder, impossible to ignore. The most unsettling part? It didn't feel like closure. It felt like the beginning of something unresolved, something that had been held back for too long finally slipping through, even if just for a moment. And as the world kept watching, refreshing, waiting for anything, another post, a hint, a sign, nothing came. Just silence. A silence that only made everything louder. Because now the question wasn't just why he posted it. The real question was, what happens next if this wasn't a mistake? The silence didn't calm anything. It made it worse. Minutes turned into hours and hours into something heavier, something suffocating. The kind of tension that sits in your chest and refuses to leave. Because the longer nothing was said, the louder everything became. Fans weren't waiting anymore. They were spiraling. Old clips resurfaced. Moments that once felt harmless now carried a completely different weight. A glance that lingered too long. A laugh that suddenly cut off. A distance that no one questioned before, now impossible to ignore. It was as if this one post had cracked something open, exposing fragments of a story that had never fully disappeared. And the more people looked back, the more it didn't add up. There were gaps, unspoken shifts, moments where something clearly changed, but no one ever explained how or why. And now with this sudden post, those missing pieces felt closer than ever, yet still just out of reach. That's what made it dangerous, because uncertainty doesn't stay quiet. It grows. Speculation turned into belief. Belief turned into division. Some fans held on tightly to the idea that nothing was wrong, that this was being exaggerated or twisted beyond recognition. But others, they weren't so sure anymore. They felt it, that subtle tension beneath the surface, the kind you can't prove but you can't ignore either. And then came the detail that changed everything. It wasn't obvious, not at first. It took time before people started noticing it, really noticing it. A small element in the post. Something so easily overlooked, yet once seen it shifted the entire perspective. Suddenly, the post didn't feel spontaneous. It felt deliberate, calculated, almost like it was meant to be found. And that realization sent a new wave of shock through the entire community. Because if this was intentional, then it wasn't just a post, it was a statement. But a statement about what? That's where everything began to fracture. Different interpretations flooded in, each one more intense than the last. Some believed it was a quiet attempt to reconnect. Others thought it hinted at something unresolved, something emotional, something complicated, something that never truly ended. And then there were those who feared something else entirely. That this wasn't about the past, that this was about now. That whatever this moment represented, it was still ongoing, still evolving, still unfinished. And that idea, it terrified people. Because if something is still unfolding behind the scenes, then this post wasn't just a reflection. It was a glimpse at a crack in the surface, just wide enough for the truth to almost slip through, but not completely, not yet. And as the tension reached its peak, as theories clashed and emotions ran higher than ever, everyone was waiting for the same thing. A sign, any sign. But instead, something even more unexpected happened, something no one saw coming. And the moment it appeared, everything changed again. It didn't come from a statement. It didn't come from a post. It came from something far more unsettling. An absence that suddenly felt intentional. Right when the noise reached its peak, everything slowed down. The discussions, the theories, the constant flood of reactions. It all began to shift into something quieter but far more intense because people started noticing what wasn't happening. No interaction, no acknowledgement, nothing. And that's when the atmosphere changed completely. Because silence at this point didn't feel passive anymore. It felt controlled. Like every second without a response was stretching the tension on purpose, letting it build, letting it break people apart, letting questions sink deeper without ever offering relief. And then, almost too subtle to catch at first, something shifted. Not a new post, not a message, but a movement. A small, nearly invisible change that only the most attentive fans caught. The kind of detail that doesn't scream for attention, but once discovered, refuses to be ignored. It spread quietly at first, passed between a few accounts, then exploded within minutes because it raised a question no one was ready to face. If nothing was wrong, why change anything at all? The timing didn't make sense. The context made it worse. And suddenly, the original post wasn't the center of attention anymore. This was because now it wasn't just about what had been shown, it was about what was being adjusted, hidden, or possibly corrected. And that implication hit harder than anything before it. Fans weren't just analyzing anymore. They were watching closely, waiting for patterns, waiting for slips, waiting for anything that might confirm what they were starting to fear. That this situation was far more complex than it appeared on the surface. Because if everything was truly normal, none of this would be happening, not like this. Not with this level of tension, not with this kind of silence. And yet still, no explanation came and no clarity. Just that same suffocating quiet, now filled with even more questions than before. But beneath all the chaos, one thought began to settle in, slow, heavy, unavoidable. What if this wasn't meant to be understood right away? What if this wasn't for the public at all? What if this moment, this post, this entire sequence was never supposed to be seen like this in the first place? And if that's true, then what everyone just witnessed might have been something that slipped through. A moment that wasn't meant to escape, a message that wasn't meant to be decoded, a truth that even now is still trying to stay hidden. But the damage is already done because people saw it, people felt it, and now there's no going back. Only one question remains hanging heavier than ever before. When the next move finally comes, will it reveal the truth or bury it even deeper? And then just when the tension felt like it couldn't stretch any further, something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. A shift so subtle it almost slipped past everyone, yet powerful enough to send a shock straight through those who were still watching closely. Because after hours of silence, after waves of speculation and emotional exhaustion, There it was, just a signal, not direct, not obvious, but real. It didn't answer anything. In fact, it made everything worse because instead of clarity, it added another layer. Another piece that didn't fit neatly into any explanation. Another detail that only deepened the mystery instead of resolving it. And the reaction was immediate, explosive. Fans who had started to calm down were pulled right back in. Theories that had begun to fade suddenly reignited with even more intensity. Every timeline lit up again. Faster than before, louder than before, more divided than before. Because now this wasn't just about one post anymore. It was about a pattern sequence, something unfolding in fragments, just enough to keep everyone guessing, but never enough to confirm anything.